Welcome to the Red Med podcast, Rescue, Expedition and Disaster Medicine, where we provide a platform for healthcare professionals working in or aspiring to join rescue, expedition and disaster response teams. A platform to share information, advice and opportunities and connect like-minded Red Med individuals in our community. Good afternoon everyone and welcome to episode 9 of the Red Med podcast. As usual, I'm joined by our SS crew chief, Chris Sharp. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
This podcast, as usual, is supported by SOS Coffee, Guatemalan coffee we sell to use to run medical missions in underserved communities around Guatemala and to deliver free CPR and bleeding control courses. Sadly, today I'm not drinking SOS Coffee, we're in Starbucks.
Well, outside of Starbucks.
It's chucking it down with rain. Following on from the last few podcasts, we've received a lot of interest from medics out in urban areas wanting more information on courses and career paths and how to get into the Red Med sphere, if you like. So we thought I'd delve into the types of courses and progression and sources of information that might help medics get into this environment, into the rescue, expedition and disaster environment. The first thing required to get snapped up, accepted and be capable of supporting a Red team really is having a well-rounded and relevant CV or well-rounded portfolio. Not just hospital, not just pre-hospital ambulance, but well-rounded, including some of the topics that are going to be relevant to the particular job that you're deploying on, whether it be expedition, rescue or disaster. But I think, Chris, the most important is having a baseline healthcare professional qualification, whether that be EMT, paramedic, nurse, doctor, and registered with the appropriate authority or governing body. That way, anybody hiring or firing can ensure your legal status, you comply with the minimum requirements, they can do due diligence on your criminal background check, etc., etc. So it doesn't matter where you are at this stage, you may not have done any wilderness courses or rescue disaster courses. The key is having a good, solid platform, which is your healthcare professional qualification, right?
Yep.
A couple of good things to bolt on prior to deploying anywhere or going into a disaster environment or an expedition, working on an oil rig, a tactical team. A couple of good courses for anybody would be the ACLS, Advanced Cardiac Life Support course, and the Pre-Hospital Trauma Life Support. That gives you a good, well-rounded, specific and up-to-date idea of the protocols that are going to save lives. Albeit ACLS on an expedition, you're probably not going to have a monitor. You'd be lucky to have a defibrillator, let alone a 12-lead ECG. But they're good baseline courses anyway.
But they give you you understand what's happening with the body. Not necessarily you've got the tools, but you know what's happening with your patient, so you know what needs to come next, what needs to happen, where to take them.
Yeah, exactly. You know where you need to move your patient to and what support they need. So whether you're on an oil rig, a close protection team, a mountain expedition, or maybe a 4x4 overland trip, the issues you'll encounter and the competencies you require can really be split into 4 generic categories. And this is not written in stone, this is us just putting some notes together and talking. But 4 categories might include primary care skills, emergency medical care, trauma care, and then specific to role, whether that be overlanding, climbing, ice climbing, you name it. So the skills and knowledge needed to manage each will really depend on the nature of various things. Every trip's going to be different. The nature of the location or the environment you're travelling to. Is it jungle? Is it desert? Arctic? The available equipment. The infrastructure available to you and within the country. Local protocols, legal status, your own guidelines. The number of team members, any medical support that you've got immediately or within the immediate area, and the population diversity. Are you caring for young fit soldiers, or have you got paediatrics within the group, geriatrics, obese,
prosthetic limbs?
Yeah, as you had last week. So I think one of the courses that I've done really served me well in this environment, and that's the UK Health and Safety Executive Offshore Medic course. It's a great bolt-on course for existing healthcare professionals, whether it be army medics, nurses, paramedics, and it provides us with an ideal base to operate in remote locations, originally designed for the offshore oil platform, but it includes trauma care, medical emergencies, ILS, ALS, primary care, particularly useful for paramedics because paramedics generally, mainstream, don't do a lot of primary care, if any, unless you're a community paramedic or an emergency care paramedic. So the Health and Safety Executive Offshore Medic is a very, very good starting block. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the podcast. Other courses that you could consider on the medical side might be the NAEMT AMLS course, Advanced Medical Life Support. It's only 16 hours, but the manual is incredibly comprehensive. It's got all sorts from bites and stings, anaphylaxis, cardiac arrhythmias, diabetes. Really great reference tool, but a very good toolkit to use to look at your differential diagnoses when perhaps you're in the middle of nowhere and the signs and symptoms present like 5 or 6 different things. How do you rule it in? How do you rule it out? How do you do your doctor house in the middle of nowhere? So the AMLS course, it's a fantastic course. ACLS, PALS, Pediatric Advanced Life Support, depending on your population. Neonatal Resuscitation, PEP, Pediatric Emergencies for the pre-hospital provider. So there's some of the useful medical courses. On the trauma side, I think it's been phased out now, but the ATT course, the Assessment and Treatment of Trauma, I think it's now been superseded by PHTLS. They've been absorbed by Jones and Bartlett. So the pre-hospital trauma life support, civilian version, 16 hours. Great course, absolutely fantastic. More applicable to the US market and protocols and the way of thinking, but it is developing. And the 9th edition, certainly in Spanish, the 9th edition is coming out this year. So it should have some good updates. Then you've got ITLS as well. Very, very similar courses. On the primary care side, obviously if you're a nurse, community nurse, doctor, GP, general practitioner, particularly a military medic, probably got a lot of primary care experience. Paramedics, mainstream, tend not to have primary care experience. But again, the offshore medic course will be fantastic. It's a 4-week course, comprises of 2 weeks on site, covering primary care, a little bit of prolonged field care, trauma, ALS, ITLS, and then you've got 2 weeks clinical attachments. 1 week should be in an emergency environment and the other in a primary care environment, probably shadowing a doctor, doing multitude of patient assessments. But fantastic course to bolt on to an existing qualification. Other sources, more and more, particularly in the US, paramedics are starting to specialise and diversify. We've got tactical paramedics, flight paramedics, and now the new community paramedics that are trying to get in and do more frontline healthcare, health promotion, prevention initiatives. And that's a formal qualification these days, community paramedic. I guess the equivalent in the UK is probably the ECP, emergency care practitioner, which do a lot more minor interventions and primary care, which is worlds apart from the frontline ambulance stuff that we generally do. Then we've got more specific to role courses. There are hundreds. This is just a small list or a small sample of some of the courses that we run, that we've seen, we've used to good effect. And they can be applied to any level, whether you're a doctor, nurse, paramedic, just to kind of translate some of the skills and put them in context in the relevant environment. So you could start off with the ASHE, American Safety and Health Institute, Wilderness First Responder. That's an 80-hour course, or the ASHE Wilderness EMT upgrade. That's a bolt-on for EMTs and paramedics, 40 hours. It's core first aid applied to the relevant environment with a lot of improvisation and a focus on the kind of things you're likely to see in a wilderness or expedition environment. So heat injuries, cold injuries, bites, stings, ticks, fractures, bleeds, evacuation considerations, packaging, all that kind of thing.
And on that, I think even the wilderness first aid, the first responder, although even if you're a doctor, paramedic, critical care nurse, I think there is value because it's putting you in what may be an alien environment. Like when we turn up with a roll of masking tape and a machete, because we know we can fabricate everything in the middle of the jungle, the forest, wherever. So and I know when you ran the AWS course, you've got doctors going, I would do this, this, this. Well, you don't have it anymore.
That's a really good point, actually. The AWS course, which is the next course I was going to talk about, we had probably 10, 11 doctors on the first course, and we're jumping in to the evaluation. Yeah, I would give this, I'd give 50 milligrams stat of that, I'd put them on an IV infusion of that. Well, okay, great ideas, and you're absolutely clinically correct, but we're on the side of a volcano, and you've got what's in your pouch on your belt.
Yeah.
We don't have those drugs. What can you do now? And it helps, these courses just help mould your approach, still drawn on that incredible grey matter from your previous training, but just putting it in a context and adapting it.
And the benefit of those courses is what, because if you choose the right provider, they're intensely practical. So you may want to be an expedition medic, but realise you don't actually like it, or you're not fit enough, but it's also a good way to network with the instructors for whichever provider, or like we've had people and then we've used them again in future for smaller operations. It's like a networking tool. It introduces you to a new environment that you might not actually like. Like everybody wants to be helicopter rescue until I stand you on the skid to rappel at 200 metres.
You realise you don't like heights.
Yeah. And it's a good introduction to the actual expedition world, even though it may only be a wilderness first aid course.
Oh, very true, the networking. I did the WMS mountain medicine course and summited Aconcagua with a group of 20 healthcare professionals, and 2 of those ended up coming to Guatemala to help us develop the first AWS course. Fantastic professionals. So that takes us on to the WMS and the University of Utah Advanced Wilderness Life Support course. It gives you 20.5 hours CME or CPD credits, lasts for 4 years. It's generally run in a classroom environment over 2 days. You can get it into 2 days or a long weekend. The way we've run it, and a lot of other companies run it, is put it into context. Do some of the practical lectures as you're obliged to do some of the group discussions, and then the demonstrations and the skill stations, the scenario-based exercises, do them in a real-world context. Talk about altitude at altitude. Talk about immersion injuries, head, neck, spinal injuries whilst you're on the river, whilst you're rafting. Talk about snakes and spiders whilst you're in the middle of the jungle, and that's exactly how we've done it in Guatemala through the jungle, and again in Mexico on Pico de Orizaba, more than 5,000 metres. But it's a great course, particularly when it's run in a hybrid format like that. It covers heat, cold, altitude, diving injuries, bleeding, burns, head, ears, eyes, nose, throat issues, bites, stings, ticks, lightning, drowning, water treatment in a remote area. Absolutely fantastic course, and gives you 20 credits towards the fellowship, which we'll talk about in a bit. Some other short bolt-on courses that might help you in certain environments, particularly the disaster. The NAEMT, the new AHDR course, All Hazards Disaster Response course. Very, very short course, 8 hours. It's got a short manual, but it covers key topics: introduction to triage, infectious diseases, CBRN, structural fires, active shooters, motor vehicle accidents, all the kind of things that you're likely to come across on a daily basis, perhaps in a normal pre-hospital environment. But those coming from a hospital environment might not have experienced that. So yeah, any disaster stuff, that gives you a good intro. Then we come on to the PHTLS military version, or the TCCC course, Tactical Combat Casualty Care. There's 2 versions. There's the MP, the medical provider version, for military healthcare providers, military medics, physicians, physicians assistants, and then the AC, all combatants, which is just for the run-of-the-mill tactician, soldier, police officer to be able to effect tactical medicine in the early stages, care under fire and tactical field care, so how to put a tourniquet on, hemostatic gauze, etc. Then you've also got the tech course, Tactical Casualty Emergency Care, which is more for civilian healthcare providers to be able to shadow or integrate into maybe a police tactical team to provide them with tactical support. The beauty of the military PHTLS course is it covers everything from operational planning, logistics, triage, evacuations, environmental issues, altitude, lightning, snake bites, but then all of the core TCCC stuff, new tourniquets, tranexamic acid, ketamine, etc. And what I particularly like about TCCC is the phases are very similar to red phases. Care under fire, it's virtually the same as being on a mountain. It's just get out of the danger area, get away from the rockfall, get away from the unstable building. You can do limited first aid in that kind of environment, so it just speeds things up a little bit. Then you've got your tactical field care. What care are we going to provide for that patient after things have calmed down a little bit? We've got the team together, communications are slightly better, equipment's still limited, we're still in a potentially volatile environment, but we can do a little bit more. And then you've got your tactical evacuation care, whether it be Medivac by a designated medical platform, ground or air ambulance, or a Casevac, improvised, thrown in the back of a pickup, carried on a sledge or a donkey. How do we evacuate people? What are the considerations? Considering flight physiology, distance, time, analgesia, temperature.
And you have to have PHTLS before you can do those.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. For the TCCC, you need to be military. You should have also done the standard PHTLS course before you go into the military PHTLS course, from my understanding. And likewise, PHTLS and ACLS are generally the baseline standards for working on offshore oil rigs or onshore oil rigs out in the Middle East. Paramedic course plus ACLS and PHTLS. Then we've got one of the cream of the crop, the Wilderness Medical Society. They're not the only ones to run this. Wilderness Medical Society, DIM, or Diploma in Mountain Medicine, consists of 4 modules, each one a week long. 2 of them are conferences in the US, the Winter and Summer Conference, with some of the world's leading experts in wilderness and expedition medicine. They're at the forefront of the research and the studies, providing CPD lectures. And then there's 2 field sessions. The first one is the Alpine Skills and Rescue module with a lot of snow and ice. And then the second one is the Rock Skills and Rescue module, lots of knots, ropes, pulleys, rappels. The didactic sessions and some of the practicals include expedition medicine, SAR-ops, trauma, altitude, analgesia, navigation, heat and cold injuries. It's just a fantastic quota to bolt on, particularly for rescue teams. Short CPD modules, there's a plethora out there. I know you're the CPD king online. You've got all sorts of sites from Boundtree to I don't know what, but some of the sources I've used are the FEMA website, International Red Cross, various universities, Wilderness Medical Society, and I've found some little gems online to do with blast injuries, frostbite, incident command system, disaster medicine, mountain medicine. I don't know if you've got any other sites.
The recent one I sent to you was Mountain Rescue Society, because obviously I only normally do free ones. That's got, there's only about 3 really on there.
That's the Mountain Rescue Association.
Yeah. Working with safely with helicopters, and it's, as you know, it goes into how they work and all that kind of thing. There's a risk management, and then there's another one, I can't remember the name.
Situational awareness. In search and rescue.
Yeah. And they are good. And most CPD sites, there's pictures, maybe a video, a quiz, and then you get a online certificate kind of thing, just for your portfolio.
Yeah, I've done those. I think they're fantastic. All of our crew should do those. Then you've got academic or advanced courses. Again, there's a plethora of them. There's lots. You could look at things like the flight paramedic course, critical care transport course in the US. They vary from a few days to a few months. Master's degrees in critical care, things like that. Both of the critical care transport and the flight paramedic can be certified once you've completed the course. Go and do the exam with the IBSC, the International Board of Specialty Certification, or the Board for Critical Care Transport Paramedic Certification. That's recognised in the US and most of the Americas. Pretty challenging exams, but if you're well prepared, they're doable. Additional and specific skills. Often we pay lip service to this and kind of leave this to the expedition leader or the local porters and the guides. But we've talked before about being self-sufficient and being able to muck in when Murphy's Law strikes. So some of the things you might consider, but are not essential: 4x4 driving and basic preventative maintenance, checking your tyres, fuses, being able to fix minor problems, use of snow chains or sand ladders, depending on which environment you're going to operate in. We shouldn't leave this all the time to the drivers, local guides, or the team leader. Maybe they've got a lot to do, or maybe they're injured. Navigation. If the group leader does get injured or you get separated from the main group, how do you get out? Can you navigate with map and compass if your GPS doesn't work? If your GPS is confiscated at the airport, can you navigate with map and compass?
Or your batteries go flat.
Satcoms, satellite communications. Have you bought the right one? Is the coverage in that part of the world? Languages. Just languages help everywhere. If you can speak the local language, you can get stuff done. You can do evacuations, you can assess your patients, you can purchase local consumables. Radio comms, survival skills, we've done a podcast on that, fairly extensive. Helicopter marshalling. You love this one, when the Hollywood people waving at the helicopter to try and attract its attention, but what does that actually mean?
Wave off, it's too dangerous to land.
Yeah, go away. So helicopter marshalling and knowing how to prepare an improvised helicopter landing site is really important. If it's not big enough or there's hazards, we physically can't land. We're not going to jeopardise the aircraft. What else have we got? The Wilderness Medical Society Fellow of the Academy of Wilderness Medicine form. I did this a few years ago, and it's probably the best wilderness education and preparation that I've done to date for this particular environment. It's a comprehensive, didactic and practical journey and courses that lead you to a great foundation for rescue expedition disaster. They say on the website that it demonstrates the highest level of recognised achievement in the field of wilderness medicine, and given the content and the contributors to it and the amount of hours, then that's understandable. Candidates must achieve 100 credits from the form curriculum through a range of activities from experience, teaching, leadership, learning activities like conferences, online modules, the AWLS course, mountain medicine courses, publishing and research based on wilderness medicine, or military training. So those of you medics out there from the military background, any military training like survival or expedition, leadership, medicine, that's all relevant and it's all taken into context and might give you some APL towards the credits. So the WMS Fellow, I think you've got 2 years to complete it, 2 years to get the 100 points. I submit a portfolio of prior experience, from clinical experience to leadership to Arctic survival training, etc., plus all of the remote area clinics we've done. And then I attended conferences, climbed Aconcagua when we did the wilderness medicine, the mountain medicine course, taught on and did a few AWS courses and gradually stepped up the points. But incredible journey, very, very doable, and the amount of information is just fantastic. One of the key things to point out here is a bit of a sales tool as well. The RED course that we're going to be offering in Guatemala, hopefully we're going to get CPD credits for that as well, and we'd like to try and get it registered for form credits. So not only are you going to learn the core basics to enter this environment, you'll also be chipping away at the credits for your form portfolio.
Plus on even some of the other, like ACLS, AMLS, PHCLS, we can deliver those, and unlike anywhere else in the world, we can do PHCLS, then we can put you on an ambulance. Not as an observer, but in accordance with your skill set and our protocols. AMLS, we can then go do a couple of really remote clinics. So you put what you learn into practice. You then got hours which are signed and stamped by the doctor, all that kind of. So you develop, you've not only done the course, you've got the real world experience that sets you apart and makes you competent and confident and all those kind of things.
Yeah, we can really offer a broad CPD package here, everything from the clinical hours to the internationally certified courses. couple of other things we could consider, depending on which environment you're going to operate in. You could look at confined space rescue courses, vehicle extrication, use of hydraulic extrication tools, vertical rescue, ultrasound courses, portable ultrasound for point of care ultrasound.
Fantastic.
Brilliant, eh? Absolutely. So RedMed is a huge field, but to enter you've really got to do your research into which particular area interests you, gradually gain more knowledge, more experience, and that'll guide you in a certain path. And we'll talk in a future podcast about how to enter into the arena and get your first expedition as your first medic job on an expedition. But that's a completely separate topic. But as the WMS say, combining your profession with your passion, there are ways of doing it.
And because I've just written similar about how to get into specifically the helicopter for the Red Manual. And my friend told me a statement the other day. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And like you just said, you really need to look at what do you want to achieve at the end. So you've got your end goal, how you determine that, research online, look at what people are asking for. When they're asking for expedition support, what qualifications are they looking for? And then use that, combine it with a list, and you've created a tick-off list. And then it's up to you to find the best way to achieve what you need to be.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and it shouldn't be, because in the day we're dealing with patients who rely literally, probably their life in your hands, on the side of a mountain, on a glacier, in the desert.
In challenging environments.
But once you've got this firm medical foundation, your bolt-ons, maybe even go speak to your dentist. I always carry one of those little Life Systems dentist things, because I always have somebody with a tooth problem.
Yep.
So it's not a certificated course, but I went to a dentist today and I went, this is what I've got, how do I use it? Rather than trying to read the little thing when the time matters. And then when you get that complete rounded package, the direction. And along that journey, it is quite a specialised field, but you will start to network and meet people, and they'll go, I remember him, or I remember her, and we've got a small expedition, do you want to come? Maybe not as the medic, do you want to come and paddle the boat? Okay.
Yep.
And you can do all that kind of thing.
And probably your first few jobs are going to be for free. You might not get paid for them, but you'll probably end up in some fascinating places and see things you would never dream of seeing. The top of Mount Kilimanjaro, the Mayan temples you went to see deep in the jungle the other day. You're going to be hard pushed to get a very good salary when you're first breaking into the industry. But volunteer to be a team medic. And then you've got not only the academic education, the relevant specific education, but you've also got the experience to put on your CV for the next job. So you've got your baseline healthcare professional qualifications and experience, then you've got the specific to the environment, medical stuff, so you know about bites and stings, altitude, ticks, etc. But then how do you live in that environment? How do you cope? How do you operate? And this is one of the big downfalls of people that perhaps they're not adventurers, they haven't served in the military, and it's taken, as you said the other day, taking people out of their comfort zone. And that's one of the reasons we developed the Red Course. The Red Course is the bridge between the healthcare professional, the relevant education, and actually being able to work in that environment. So the Red Course aims to provide a toolkit for existing healthcare providers to integrate into a Red Team. We've got modules from survival, jungle survival, mountain survival, water, coastline, helicopter safety, search operations, search patterns, lost person behaviour, altitude illness, operational planning, risk management, prolonged field care. Plus, we're going to add all of this into real-world scenario-based training, exercises, including rafting through the jungle, climbing, trekking, maybe even some human external cargo, somebody dangling on a stretcher from a helicopter. But you will actually plan the operations, run the operations, find the patients, treat the patients, and evacuate the patients. Using your satellite phone, your solar chargers, your map and compass, all of the things that join the dots and make you self-sufficient and make you not just a medic, but a useful medic, a team member and a team leader. So for more info on the Red Course, you can visit us at SOS Servicios Médicos or RedMed Facebook pages, or you can go to the RedMed website, which is www.redmed.education. There are some other sources of relevant CPD information. You can go to WMS conferences. There's the summer and the winter conference. You get WMS membership. That'll give you access to their journal, which has just got some great stories and case studies, guideline updates. EMS World Conference. You got the Nashville conference this month, and then one in Quito, Ecuador in March next year, I believe. Research papers. There's research papers out there, not just on the clinical side, but also statistics, epidemiology on specific expeditions, epidemiology in tropical areas, so you can read up on the latest information and know what to expect prior to travelling. Previous trip reports. The Geographical Society got some great trip reports on their archives. Maybe not a lot of medical information, but you're going to learn about the epidemiology or some of the challenges, some of the modes of transport, etc. So there's an awful lot of sources of information. We're just scratching the surface here.
And also information is, if the listeners have a question, ask it. Because between us or the people we know, we will probably be able to signpost you, direct you into a direction, or answer you straight up there and then. Use social media for what it's designed for, not pictures of you sunbathing, but ask the question on social media. Join the Facebook groups, all this kind of thing. The information's there. There's people done it. They've paid lots of money, made mistakes. So use that knowledge that's available through the internet. Obviously, when we were younger, we didn't even have computers. And you can amass a lot of information, come up with a career plan as such. Any specific questions, drop us a line and we can answer them. And use this network of people. And by doing that, the network of people also start to hear your name cropping up. Not every 3 minutes asking random questions, but, oh, I remember Amy asked this question.
Yeah, he specialises in this. Yeah. He's good at this.
You asked me about tropical fish. Did you ever get sorted? Yes. Well, what were you doing? Oh, well, I've got an expedition next month where I could use somebody like you.
Yeah, I've just come back from the desert. Yeah. Oh, I need somebody for the desert next month.
And that's how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the course, we're going to have, like Chris, the crew chief, 28 years experience, 15,000 hours in a helicopter directing search and rescue operations. We've got critical care paramedics, fellow of the Academy of Wilderness Medicine, people like Dr. Ben Mattingly, professors of emergency medicine and form, Dr. Gustavo Flores, who lived and worked through the hurricane and the disaster in Puerto Rico, an incredible core team of advisors, consultants and experts in this particular field. But no doubt we'll learn from the participants on the course. Everybody's going to bring their own information. The idea is put it in the pot, share it, take out what's relevant, discard what's not, and keep moving forward. But hopefully this content has been useful and will generate some discussion, or at least guide your RedMed career path and development. And hopefully we'll look forward to meeting some of you in the future or hearing your comments on the social media.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Short and sweet, guys. A lot shorter than normal. As usual, this podcast has been sponsored by SOS Coffee and Starbucks Coffee today. Coffee that we sell to fund medical missions in under-resourced communities in Guatemala and to run very important bleeding control and CPR courses to save lives in the region. Thanks for listening, guys, and look forward to comments.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.